If you've heard a lot of good things about AI and its capabilities, but when you try to really use it in a real large scale work, in some real work, and you found that AI is actually very dumb, it's very forgetful, it's probably because you were not able to manage the context window well. I totally understand AI is not perfect yet. It's getting better and better. It's not perfect yet. But two things, if you can manage, one is the context window, and one is learning the art of crafting very powerful prompts that AI can understand very well. If you can learn these two things, it would be a game changer for you. For most of you, I believe learning to manage context window and understanding a little bit about tokens and the context window will be very useful for you. So when we are chatting with any AI tool, for example, ChatGPT, it feels like you are chatting with another human being. So you say something like, and it's a very simple example um, chat. You tell to AI, hey, can you help me with drafting an email for XYZ project? Usually it's a much longer prompt, but I'm oversimplifying it, right? And then the assistant, the AI gives you back usually a very long answer back. And you're still something like, it looks good to me, but I think we need to include these extra features to your message. And magically, it looks like that the AI remembers everything from the past communication and it modifies its own output to match your new requirements, the new requests, right? And the chat goes on. On one hand, it feels like you are sending very small messages to the AI and you are getting back a message. Then again, you are sending a pretty small message. And it feels like you are communicating with another human being. But under the hood, what happens? It's very important to understand that. So, with your every message in a chat, you are sending some information, some tokens, some characters to the AI. For example, again, I'm using AI, I'm intentionally not using, big jargons or machine learning terms just to make things very, very beginner friendly. So usually what will happen is, and it's a very simplified form, you are sending these characters to the AI, okay? And every character utilizes some token. So for example, this particular message that you sent had 70 characters and it required around 20 tokens. So you sent 20 tokens, you utilized 20 tokens to sending this particular message. So here is one part of it. Then assistant usually gives you back a very long response. Say it gives you a response that utilizes, for example, 2000 tokens. Okay. Now you again send your very second message. Okay. Looks good, but I think we need to include more details. How many tokens do you think you are sending here? Looks like 15, 20 tokens, right? But actually, you will be sending 20 tokens from your first message, maybe 2000 tokens from the assistant's message, and 20 tokens from here. That means in total, you'll be sending around 2040 tokens. So only from first message to the second message that you sent, you see how much more tokens you have to use. Now, as you move ahead, right, just by the time you reach fourth or fifth message, many times, you can see that just to send something like, should we also give a quick update on the project timeline, something like this, you are not just sending 15, 20 tokens that you are typing out, but to give ChatGPT the context of the entire chat, you will actually be sending all of these with your request, which utilizes a lot of tokens. Okay. So again, to quick summary so far, with every message, you are sending some characters which requires a token, a certain number of tokens. As the message progresses, the token count increases exponentially. And the third thing that you need to know is that every AI has a specific window size. That means only certain number of tokens it can handle at once. Anything more than that, it tends to ignore. So for example, ChatGPT 3.5 has a context window size of just 16,385 tokens. That means if you send any more than 16,385 tokens, that means here, if you'll send any other message, probably the first few messages will get ignored because it goes beyond the window size, the context window size of the AI tool that you are using. Again, if you see ChatGPT 4, you'll see the context size is much bigger with 128,000 tokens. But it's very important to remember that there is a context window size and your AI cannot handle more than that size of token. And another thing that you need to remember is as your chat grows from 5th to 6th to 8th to 10th message, the number of tokens that you are sending to your AI increases exponentially. It increases at a very, very, very fast rate. So here is when you feel that your AI is forgetful. It does not remember, it's dumb, it forgot its instruction because it had a context window size, for example, 128,000 tokens, but the most important instructions that you gave were in the first two messages about the project, what you need, and what are the most important features that needs to be included. And all of them are lost as you move forward in the chat. So here in this example, you can see as I'm moving forward, my AI is unable to remember any of the information from the first few messages because it flew out. It was not able to handle any more tokens than its context window size. One thing many of us try to do once we realize that our AI is very forgetful, it sounds very dumb, we give it more instructions, which makes the conditions more worse. So you will tell it, oh, don't you remember that we were supposed to create an email? And what is happening as a result? Again, these messages also it's forgetting, right? So how to manage the context window size? Once you know the problem and you know the root of the problem, you all are smart enough to solve it, right? But I'll be demoing you some of the well known solutions to the context window problem so that it it starts your creative process, right? You can use these as a starting point to come up with even better solutions, even better ways to manage your context window. Remember, these are just some of the well known ways of managing the context window size. You can always come up with your own better, more creative ways. The very first and the very obvious solution is that if you're not getting your desired outcomes in your first or second messages, instead of giving more and more and more messages to explain AI what you need, like you realized after first, second, third message that it's not understanding it, it's not getting it, right? So consider either starting a new chat or use the edit button instead of continuing the chat. For example, this is a pretty nice prompt. You will realize it as we move ahead in this course that it's a very nice prompt where we have given it lots of examples to get exactly precisely what we needed, the kind of output we needed. But still, if I realize in first or second prompt that I'm not getting the kind of output I need, it makes sense to hit this edit button and edit this prompt and make it better rather than increasing the size of the chat. So in the first one or two prompts, if you realize that you're not getting the kind of output you need, it's too much far away from what you need, consider recrafting your prompt, consider using that edit button instead of making the chat longer and longer. This very powerful second way is give the most of the common instructions for an entire chat in the first two or three prompts, and then keep on editing the third or the fourth prompt. Let me show you this with an example. So I needed to learn all of these machine learning algorithms, right? like linear regression, ridge and lasso, and all of these machine learning algorithms I needed to learn in a very well defined structure. And these aspects of algorithms were something I wanted to learn first. So these are all the information I want to learn. Again, I got this entire list in a separate chat window, which was a very long chat. And at the end, I had my nice, very well structured list of algorithms that I wanted to learn. Okay. The next thing I wanted to tell it was the way I would like to learn it. I really love the way Etham Alpaydan teaches machine learning, right? So, for example, in his book, Machine Learning, the New AI, he taught entire machine learning without using any big jargon words, without using any mathematical formulas, with examples that any layman can relate with. So, this is the way I like my first book to be. This is the way I like to get introduced to a subject without going too much into depth of it, but developing proper intuition about it, how it works, the mental model, the zeros and ones, right? So, first, in the first prompt, I gave it everything I wanted to learn. In the second prompt, I described it very well, and you will learn it in the upcoming chapters how to get precisely what you need from your AI, right? So here precisely I'm telling it how I want to learn it. I want to learn it using interesting, easy, relatable, accurate analogies, yet accurate analogies, right? I want to learn in Etham Alpaydan's style, right? I don't want mathematical formulas. I don't want big jargons. And I also gave it a few examples how in his book, Ethan Alpaidam teaches different concepts with such beautiful, easy to grasp examples, right? So I gave it a couple of examples. Again, you can see it's a very big prompt. So all of my important information are given in the first two prompts. All I want to learn and how I want to learn it. So it will give me everything about linear regression in exactly the way I want, using the kind of examples I want to help me develop intuition around it, to help me, get a great mental model. Now, the mistake people do is people will copy this prompt and again type a new message and ask it to teach one of the another algorithm, then another algorithm. And as the chat becomes longer, it will forget everything about the list that we shared it in the first chat and the style of teaching that we shared in the second chat. And it will start using all of the typical chat GPT, terminologies and all of the complicated examples and formulas and everything. So what is one of the many ways? So I have given it the common set of instructions. Now, after I get the output for linear regression, I can copy it, I can paste it in Notion or a Word or anywhere, right? And then I can edit it and ask it to give me my second algorithm. So, for example, ridge and lasso regression. I'll tell it to give me that. I'll send it, and I'll get the entire lesson on this in exactly the way I want it to. And once I have it, I can copy it somewhere and then again edit it for the very next type of algorithm that I want to learn. So again, very powerful way. Give all the set of common instructions in the first few prompts. And for the lesser dependent prompt, okay, for the independent prompts, use the edit button. Third is ask and edit. So for example, in order to prepare the curriculum for the next section of this course, I wanted to start from my own course that I recorded a while back, right? I did not want it to start it from scratch. So I used a module called RepoPack. We'll see how to use it. And I packed all of my notes, which was in Markdown, into one file, one text file, and I gave it, right? And now, one by one, I want it to write about these different aspects of prompt engineering, right? Again, after a couple of chats, you can still see I'm scrolling and scrolling. The chat is getting longer and longer and longer and longer, right? So at certain point of time, what you can do is you can ask, do you remember the context of repopack output.txt that I gave you in our very first message, right? And if it remembers, good. If it has lost that context, You might, get a different message or anything, right? Not just an attachment. In recent future, the way attachment is used is going to change in case of ChatGPT. So anything from the very first message that you sent, you may ask something about it. If it does not remember, you have to do something about the context window, right? Then again, once your AI has become forgetful or losing context, ask it to summarize the conversation and start the new chat. So again, suppose it starts to forget thing here. I may ask it to summarize the conversation, all of the conversation and all of the details. I might have to enter the first few messages which it has already forgotten manually, and then I can start a new chat, and all of the summary are a part of the very first message of the chat. Another very powerful way is break down a complex request into multiple chain of chat windows. So what does it mean? So I was asked to create a CMS, a content management system from scratch that would run in the browser itself. Okay. So I had to create a content management system, all of the features of the content management system, but it runs in the browser itself. It uses the local storage and all of those stuff. So how to do that? And that time we didn't have 128,000 context window size. We had just a very small context window of ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. So what I did was in the very first chat window, I figured out all of the specifications and details of the project, or you can say all the features that project is going to be having in a very long chat. I got all of that in a very short text. So by the end of chat 1, I had the specifications of the project. In a new chat window, I gave it all of the specification, and there were some back and forth, and by the end of the second chat, I had the entire structure of my program, that I need to organize it into an MVC model, and these will be the folders, these will be the templates, these will be whatever, right? So I had the entire structure of all the folders and file names. Now, by this time, I have all the specifications, I have the entire structure. I don't need those lengthy chats anymore, right? I just need the end result of those chats. And then in a brand new window, I provided it the specifications, I provided it the structure, and then one by one, by editing the third prompt, I generated code for each and every function, that was generated. So I had specification, I had structure, I had all the function names. Here, one by one, I created code for all of them. And then once the entire app was generated, I had all the code that were pasted in the in the Visual Studio Code. I used RepoPack to combine all of that into one text file. I'm sure by the time this course reaches out to you, ChatGPT and all of the AI tools will natively support a GitHub repository. I feel that. But at the time of recording, there was no way to upload a directory or nested files. It was accepting just one file. So once the entire app was generated, I flattened the project using RepoPack, which we'll explore in the upcoming lessons. And I started a new chat window to discuss each of the errors that I was getting, and I was able to fix that. Once that chat became much longer, I had another version of code. Again, flattened that and started a new chat window. By the end of one day, I was having a working, running CMS, which was beautifully running on the student's window. Okay. So this is a very nice way of managing context window size, is breaking a complex problem into simpler chain of chat windows. Then another very obvious solution is, instead of using these free models or ChatGPT 3.5 with a very limited context window size, if you want to make best use of AI and if you want to experience the power of AI, use an AI with a larger context window. So almost all of the paid ones like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, they have a very, very large context window. I believe personally, investing 2-3,000 rupees for an assistant that is with you 24 hours and making your life easier, doing all of the boring stuff so much more efficiently, having a big context window size, investing your 2, 3, 4,000 rupees in such a tool is totally a very, very good investment of your money. So the sixth solution is get a tool with much larger context window size. And the seventh solution is learn to craft your prompts. So many people think that they know how to talk with GPT, but when you see their messages, so many obvious aspects are missing. They are making so many obvious mistakes. So that's why the next section of this course is very important, where we learn the art of crafting very powerful prompts, getting very precise outputs in simplest possible way.